Hi, and thank you so much for purchasing a 4th Street Creative template. This is the video walkthrough for the Kensington Tabloid Brochure. And when you get the link, you'll be directed to this page, click Use Template, and that will bring you into your Canva account. And once you're in here, you are ready to start designing, but I would highly suggest that you head over to File and make a copy, and this just ensures that you have a backup in case you go way off track and you're like, oh no, I need to start over. You have the master file available to you, and then you can just start from scratch without having to worry about downloading everything from Etsy again. So once you've done that, you head over to Uploads and upload your own listing images, and when you do that, it'll look like this. So just upload, find it on your computer, and then bring it in. It'll look like this, and you can start swapping out the photos. So one thing to note about this particular template is there is an overlay over the main image. There's an overlay in a couple places actually. It's this main photo and then this photo here. Is there one on this one? No, there's a background. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. But for the overlay, you just move it out of the way and then click on the image behind it to access it. And then bring in your own property image. So I'm going to just use this guy. And once you're happy with the way that it looks in the frame, you can move the overlay back. But if you need to adjust the way it looks in the frame, just double click it, and that way you can move it around until you're happy with the positioning, and then move the overlay back to its original spot. If you feel like the overlay is too dark, you have two options. You can head over to the color tab and change the overlay itself to either your brand colors or something that works better for you. Or if you like the dark overlay but just can't see the photo behind it enough, you can head over to this button, which is the transparency tab, and then reduce the opacity a bit. Just pay attention to how well you can read the font here. So you don't want to bring it down here because when it's printed it'll be very difficult to read. I would say 30 is still risky, but you can do it if you want to have that kind of, you want to see the building perfectly. I like to keep it around 60. You see just enough of the building and you can read the text perfectly. But if you do want to add some brand element without having to change the transparency or color of it, the overlay I mean, you can just head over to this decorative box, and that's a great way to add an element of your brand. So if you have beige in your brand, for example, you might just want to change the color to that just to add a brand element there without having to change the entire color scheme. So if it was that rosy pink, I might do that. And it just brings it into play a little bit. So I like to do all of the first one and then all of the second one. So this is the front of the brochure, this is the back of the brochure. So when you're dealing with the back of the brochure with a tabloid, you can use it for multiple things. I like to personally use it for either highlighting the area or highlighting the exterior of the property. So where I like to keep everything interior on the second page here, on the back page I would either put a picture of the backyard, the back of the home, or in this case we did the area. And this is also an area for the details and extras. So if you don't have need for this, an option, this is made to plug and play. So you can either just replace all the information with your own and then download it and send it to your printer and you're good to go. But if you don't have need for all these details and you want it to be more visually appealing, you can delete all this. And then I like to highlight a image box that's already here. Copy, paste, and then you can change the sizing of the box. Copy, paste, and then maybe we want to bring it all the way down here. And now you have 3 boxes for your images, and we can just change that to whatever you'd like to highlight. Whether it be more images of the property, the area, or the backyard. So I might do amenities. Okay, and then you've created a more visually appealing, more visual than informational on the back. So this is the agent banner, and you can either just use it as is, but if you have your own agent photo, stock photo here somewhere, You click it once to bring it in, and then you shrink it down to fit into the banner. When you're happy with that, you go ahead and you start trying to fit everything else in. So in this case, I might actually just delete the brokerage logo completely and just put the name of the brokerage here. So if you need to add another text box, you can either copy this text box, so copy and paste, or you can simply hit T on your keyboard and it'll bring up a text box for you. So T is in text on your keyboard. And you could put real estate company. Highlight the text, make sure it's white, and then that way you're covered. So this is a little bit tight for me, so I'm going to highlight the text and go to the spacing icon and adjust the spacing of it. So what that does is it eliminates spacing or increases the size of spacing between letters. So without having to reduce the font, I can just adjust how it sits in this box. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit and then move it over so it's not touching his jacket. And that's how you make things fit. If you're not happy with the font, you can always highlight the font and change it to your own brand fonts, and of course change the color. So this image back here is a stock image, and if you don't like it, you can simply delete it and then have just the background color box. And this background color box you can change, obviously, to anything you'd like. We're going to keep it black for this purpose, and I actually like it black. I think it looks really great. Same with this. You can adjust the spacing a bit. And it just fills out the box a little bit more. That looks good, so I'm going to move on to page number 2. You can tell that there's an overlay over this photo, so you're just going to want to drag it out of the way and then select the picture behind it and put your own image in. Now I'm not happy with the way that image is sitting in the box, so I double click the image box to change the positioning of my image within that box. When you're happy with it, you drag the overlay back. I think it's a little bit too dark. I'm going to brighten it up ever so slightly so that I can see this beautiful room behind it. And then I'm going to change my tagline to modern, appeal, and class. And then of course you want to change your property information. And if you did change the font on the front page, you're going to want to match the font on the front page with the back page. So just make sure all your fonts match. And to keep them to a minimum of 2, 3 maximum. 2 is pretty safe. And then this is where you would change all your images. So if you want to use the template as is, we really did design it so that you could just plug and play. So just grab the images that you want and pop them into place. And it's that simple. I'm just dragging images and dropping them into place, and then you can double click and adjust them, and you're ready to print this document. If you want more images, then a trick would be to let Canva tell you where the center of the image is, the center of the document is. So that purple line that you're seeing pop up, Canva's saying that's the center point. I'm just going to bring it in a little bit, and then copy this, paste this, and leave it there, because when it folds, the fold line is going to be here. So you don't want these pictures too close to the fold line. Okay? So if you have pictures that lend themselves to being vertical like this, you can absolutely choose those photos. Or you can add even more boxes if you want to add even more photos. Okay, and that's how you would do that. Once you're satisfied with everything, head over to File and Show Print Bleed. And this shows you a dotted line. That dotted line is where your printer is going to be cutting the document. So you want to make sure that everything bleeds outside of that line so that there's no mistaking this image, for example. It's so close to the cut line that you might see a black mark on the side of it. So you just want to make sure it's dragged out to the edge. You want to make sure Peter's in place. You want to make sure that all the boxes have bled out past that dotted line so that when the printer cuts, everything's in a safety zone. All these photos look like they're dragged out, so you're good. And then you head over to the download icon, make sure that PDF print is selected. And if you are having this professionally printed, make sure that you check the crop marks and bleed box. If you're printing this at home on your home printer, you don't need to check that box. Okay, so we're going to pretend that you're sending it to be professionally printed. Check mark that box, download. And this is going to download into a PDF on your computer, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you open it. You always want to check the file before you send it to your printer. When you open the file, it looks like this, and you can see where the crop marks are. So what you want to do is visually make sure that everything is within the crop mark line so that the text is not too close to that line because it might get cut off. And make sure that none of the images are outside of the crop mark lines. This looks great. So I'm ready to send this to my printer, and you can send off this file to any printer that you use. If you need any more help, you can head over to fourthstreetcreative.com/tutorials for our big resource. I hope this was helpful, and if you need any more help, please feel free to head over to fourthstreetcreative.com/tutorials for our large resource library filled with tips, tricks, articles, and walkthroughs. Happy designing!